Good morning, everyone, and welcome to THG. It is Friday, August 22nd, and this morning, instead of news or commentary, we are going to focus on the island of Nevis today. And as many of you are aware, on Nevis, the land saga is not going away, and it is not going away anytime soon. And for those of you who do not know what I am speaking about, I'm just going to give a short, brief introduction, and then we'll get right into a programming that I believe that the people of Nevis and those concerned and those who love Nevis and well-wishers of Nevis and friends of Nevis, you must hear this morning. So reports suggest that up to 6 square miles of land, some 3,840 acres. Let me repeat that. 3,000 up to 3,840 acres are being targeted by the CCM-led government in a controversial deal. What's the accusation? That the government intends to hand this vast stretch of land over to one man, a Bitcoin billionaire, to carve out his own country or island within the island of Nevis that Nevisians would not have access to. That is what the conversation is about over the last 2 weeks or so. The uproar has not subsided, and this has been the only topic dominating conversations across Nevis, and to a lesser extent, Sinkits. Now, last night on the Tell Me program, aired on Vision Radio 2020 on the island of Nevis, hosted by Carlisle Powell, along with Tulu Weeks and Dr. Kelvin Daly, who also hosts his own Saturday program on the same station at 1 p.m., dug deeper into the issue. And no doubt the conversation will continue this weekend. So I want you to spend your morning as you prepare for work and as you are getting yourselves together for the day to just listen to this radio program that we have permission to rebroadcast on this network. So just in case you missed it, here's a playback of last night's Tell Me program.
Let me show you. I have some very creative people who assist me. Let me show you something. That's the area you're talking about, and I didn't even include the entire area. That does not include the entire area. That is just drawn from Long Point heading down to Indian Castle. I know, Dr. Daly, you want me to put it all the way at Butler's. So we're gonna make the adjustment. We're gonna get it over to Butler's too. But let me show you this now, which I will put on the screen. That's the island of Nevis, and that is close to the 6 miles that they are talking about taking up. So you're essentially saying that from Long Point heading all the way over to Indian Castle, we'll draw the line to Butler's later, but all the way to Indian Castle, some of the very best fishing grounds on the island of Nevis. You can't go fish, Dr. Daly, because the people will have a lease on the seabed. They didn't say how far out, but if I am claiming a lease on the seabed, I don't want anything less than a mile out, especially if I have a 99-year lease. So that's the area you're talking about. And remember that these people, CCM, already sold originally to Newfound 1 square mile of Nevis. So you're talking about 6 miles plus another square mile. That's 7 miles. So you're talking Nevis effectively reduced to 29 square miles. So that's the area we are talking about. And that is why I put it in context from earlier so that people could understand that Fowler tried to stop Nevis people from bathing in the Bath Stream. And a Sinkits man, Bratcher, came to Nevis and said no. That Nichols tried to stop people from accessing Chupini's beach, the hotel, the area by the hotel, to go down on the beach, and Bratcher said no. That they tried to fence off, wall off an area over there at Cades Bay, and Bratcher said no. What Mark Brantley thought when he gave the Prime Minister all these powers, that Drew, who has not visited Nevis on an official trip in 3 years, going to say no? Me not think so. I really don't think so.
Here's my take on this sustainable zone legislation. In the first instance, based on what is prescribed in our Constitution and what is pertained in this act, there's something missing. There's something missing. Our Constitution does give the federal government authority our lands if there's a request by the NIA and the NIA also consents to that transfer of power to the federal government. All right? There is that provision, 37.3 of the Constitution, provides for that. And when I read through this Special Sustainable Zone Act, paragraph 9, or section 9, section 5, paragraph 9, it speaks to only consent. It speaks to only consent. It does not speak to the fact that there was a request. Because people can consent to things under duress. People can consent to things under pressure. Blackmail. But the Constitution specifies two things must happen. The NIA must request, and they also must consent for this act to be now valid in regards to Nevis and its lands. And I repeat, maybe I missed something, but I've only seen the consent part of this legislation. Perhaps they need to go back into the Parliament and amend it to put clearer language that the NIA, through the Premier, requested this intervention. I've not seen it. So as it stands, based on what the language is right now, this legislation is unconstitutional as it stands. But let's suppose for a moment they go back into the Parliament, make the necessary amendment, and it becomes legal. What then? What happens after that? They now have a legal document that gives the Premier the power to ascribe to a certain geographic area the special sustainable zone designation. And through that designation, lands within that designated area can be taken from private individuals and be given to other private individuals or an investor. But there's a problem here, you know. And the problem is the one of a criminal nature. Because we all know that the Premier's wife is the primary agent for the purchase of those lands. She is the primary person, no doubt. And if the Premier does something like go into a Parliament that activates this special sustainable zone, and whereby his wife benefits directly from his action, she's criminally exposed. She is criminally exposed. I wonder if he even cares if she is criminally exposed. But that is a fact. So I'm waiting patiently to see what the Premier will do next. Because I believe he was hoping, number one, that this legislation would go unnoticed. You can't have something like this go unnoticed when you're threatening to give away 6 square miles of Nevis. And so here we are at a crossroads. This is a real crossroads in our development, you know. Because this piece of legislation will transform Nevis. Seismically transform Nevis. Where we will become visitors to our own island. Trespassers if we choose to go over there in that area. Forever. Because once sold, it is gone. There are laws across the world that such expanses of land cannot be sold, they must be leased. But we have it here that they can be sold. But I want to see how brave Nevisians are when the Premier goes ahead and designates 6 miles of their island, of our island, to an interest foreign to us, for the benefit of him and his wife.
Say it again.
They will be benefiting financially from this. I've seen some documents that show the areas that have been bought already, approximately 70 acres, millions of dollars spent already, or promised. I've seen where the cadastral maps that show where on Nevis, where in that area the lands have been secured thus far. Much of it is in the higher elevations, Fothergills, Hickman, Webb's Ground, Bachelor Hall, a couple pieces in Long Point. And what they're seeking to do now is try to entrap persons of land in the Long Point area going over south and offering them exchanges, ridiculous exchanges, for lands on the interior side of this land grab. So if you have an acre in Long Point, for example, they're offering you 2 in Webb's Ground or Hickman or Fothergills. But back to the point of this legislation, this is the most dangerous piece of legislation we are faced with as a country. St. Kitts is not immune. And at this point in time, I'm terribly, terribly embarrassed and ashamed to be in a federation where the federal authorities are playing football with Nevis, football with our history, football with our culture. We cannot sustain anything like this. We will be changed forever. We will be changed, and not for the better. Based on the type of development these guys want to have in this area, the so-called sovereign enclave, it means by default, Nevisians will not be welcome. It means they will have their own authority over there. They have this legislation affords them the possibility of building their own port, their own hospital, their own school, have their own water supply, their own power supply. Basically, a state within a state. Is this what we want? Anything this transformational need to be properly ventilated and not snuck into any parliament to be passed as if it doesn't have any consequences. This will change us. And it matters. This is not a hotel development where people go down there and you can go down for breakfast. You can't. This is not who we are as a people. And so Bradley and his wife and the rest of those treasonous colleagues in the cabinet who have yet to stake out a position on this matter, I mean, they need to be driven out of government for what they're attempting to do. But I'll stay there for now.
Thank you very much. I'm going to play something when we come back from this call. Good evening, caller.
Good evening, gentlemen.
How are you tonight?
I'm giving God thanks. I am looking at another side of the coin. I am wondering if the Premier had no choice other than to go to St. Kitts. Remember, gentleman, the area representative for St. Paul's, his intention was to build a hotel in that same area. Ambitious young man. And I don't think he would want to support the bill. If he didn't, the bill would not have passed. And I'm thinking that is what run them over to St. Kitts. But what bothers me, that the Premier feel like the people who vote for him, he have no respect for. Because realistically, we have never had anything like this happening in Nevis. And Carleen raised it a couple of weeks before. He denied it. Went down to sink it. I have listened to House Assembly time and repeated time. And I cannot recall no bill running through in less than a day. Sometimes they have the first reading, months after second reading, the third reading, and the pass. This time, it was the best kept secret. If you're doing right by your people, discuss it with them and let them understand. Who are we to believe? Because up to this day, they haven't seen it fit to even use the words piss and cotton and gears to smell as to where do we go from here. I have listened to my representative, and I have every reason to believe her. And you know what? She's the only person who is representing us as Nevisians. I am calling on the people of Nevis to understand who is representing you. This is not a political issue. This is an issue for the people of Nevis. And you know what? The street people like me, argument is that Nevis people don't get work. Well, let me tell you, I don't know if Nevis people don't get work because they have something named cheap labor. And when they start to build, and they could bring in people on their own property, remember that belongs to them, on their own property, and they could get somebody for work who work $70 an hour. They're not going to pay Nevis, what they call it, Nevis people, $200. They're not going to do it because they figure, listen, we have our engineer, we get in cheap labor, it's the same work we can get done, we can save some money. Even people coming from the Wirral Islands. But apart from them, there are some other people who just say, no money, no there. You think Nevisians going to be going out there who say no money, no there? They're not going to get to go over there to say it. And this is cause for concern because as far as I know, it takes you less than an hour to go to Nevis. Nowhere far in Nevis. And so when we make the road over there as is planned by the Nevis Reformation Party, we want to be able to use our road and go on the coastline. Good night and goodbye.
Thank you very much. Holy Cause, I want to play two little clips from Mayor Motley to show you what mature politicians do.
The bill which was passed in the House of Assembly last week carried an exception clause, a route by which an interception could be treated as lawful without a judge's warrant in specified circumstances. But after a thorough weekend review and after advice from the Attorney General, with input from the relevant authorities and stakeholders, and being mindful of public concern, we are satisfied that this exception ought not to be proclaimed and in fact should be repealed. We will therefore act accordingly by removing this clause in the Senate and sending the same back to the House of Assembly for concurrence. My friends, this government has the humility to listen and always the courage to correct. I promised you that on May 27th, 2018, and we will hold fast to that. We will keep refining the law where necessary so that it makes sense to the people it is required to protect.
You heard that? This government has the humility to listen and the courage to correct. But let me play another one quickly.
A few nights ago, in the House of Assembly, the Minister of Home Affairs opened the second reading of two companion measures, the Immigration Bill 2025 and the Citizenship Bill 2025, and then asked that those bills go to the Parliamentary Governance Standing Committee for wider consultation before final passage. This is how big change should happen in a democracy, in the open, with the country invited to weigh in.
This is how big change happens in a democracy. In St. Kitts Nevis, big change, all three readings at one time. And even when the people make a fuss, don't listen, don't repeal anything, dig in deeper. This is what you call maturity in the case of Barbados. The people of Nevis have been up in arms over their lands and the possibilities of losing 3,840 acres on the south coast. But we have heard absolutely nothing from the Mark Brantley administration. As a matter of fact, he jumped on a plane the same day after Parliament and he was off. He gone. Martha's Vineyard. And then the state, Nevis, paid for the trip. So let me take a couple days. And don't come back until today. Last week, Monday until today. Away, having fun, telling his friends, we passed the thing, you know. We passed the thing. So the law is in place now. We just have to gazette it. And we're saying to Mark Brantley, not so fast. Hold on, man. Hold on a little bit. Hear what Mayor Motley said. Listen to the people. Even though they had passed it in their parliament, he said, no, we'll listen to the people. And we're going to make changes.
I spoke to several landowners in the area who have been contacted by Sharon Brantley or actors who work on her behalf. And they said, listen, I don't mind selling some of my lands and save some for my family and my children. But for this offer they're being made, they want all of it. One gentleman told me he has 8 acres and he said, listen, I will sell you 4. But the 4 must remain with my kids. That is their legacy, to do whatever they want to do with. I have another friend who has over 100 acres. I will sell you some, but I can't sell you all. No, we want all. All of it, every square inch of it. Because what they don't want to have happen is black people among the midst. And this is what the premier of this country is going to go into a parliament and do to make sure there is no black ownership anywhere in that sector. The last time I checked, this is a black country. Black government, black administrators, black cabinet. I would think they will a little bit more sensitive about our history and not put money ahead of everything. But clearly I am wrong. Because if you are going to the parliament to delineate at minimum 500 acres to qualify for the special zone, and persons have said, I have no intention of parting with all of my land, I will give up a few acres. And you as the government say, to hell with you.
We're going to pass the law anyhow.
We're going to pass the law. We got bigger fish to fry. Because my wife going to get benefit from the sale of all these lands.
And we'll roll off the hasback roll and
right,
belly.
I'm telling you. So this is where we at. Where the premier of this country has no regard for the rights of Nevisians and are willing to take those rights away from people who have land in the area and give it to some Belgian gentleman who wants to set up his own country. Well, if you want your own country, go Belgium. We have no room for you here. Not the kind of development. But that is what the intention is, because the premier is so vested in this thing coming through. It makes you wonder if money has been passed already, because he has gone to the lengths and breadth of going to the federal parliament to push this legislation. That is deep. And the Dr. Drew and his cabinet down there, some of them Nevisians. Congress Maynard, I call you out. You are Nevision. And you sit there and agree with this nonsense? That your mother is from Nevis, and you sit there and let Brandy come down there and push this bill down your throat, and you have no response? And again, I have to stress again, I'm thoroughly ashamed of the 2 other representatives in the opposition Sean Richards and the former Premier Prime Minister Harris for not showing up to defend this bill, to not ask the questions required to properly ventilate this matter in Parliament. Thoroughly embarrassed by it. It's unacceptable.
There's a blackness over, or darkness over this whole thing that Premier Brantley and his wife wants to bring on upon us. One, I've heard persons say that they were approached by Sharon, and when Sharon cannot get through, she said others and them. And one person, or 20 persons said that they would have asked, what project do you want my land to build on? What you want going to build on the land? And they were told, can't tell you. And when you are saying to us that you want 500 acres of our lands,
Minimum.
at a minimum, and the people who you want the land from are asking you what you want my lands to do, and you're saying to them that I can't tell you, something is fundamentally wrong. But what we have here is greed. The Premier and his wife are driven by a spirit of greed, and so they do not care about what happened to us, the people of Nevis. The Premier and his wife could get up today and go to Grenada. She's a Grenadian. Has she made a proposal to her people in Grenada for a sovereign enclave? Has she been over there harassing her people in Grenada for their land so that they could have the sovereign enclave? I do not think so. And Dr. Drew and Denzel Douglas and the rest of them go into Parliament and sat down and signed off to take away our lands to give it to somebody else under the guise of some economic development. Something is wrong.
Gentlemen, I tell you what stunned me. Colin Lawrence at the town hall meeting in Gingerland mentioned the name of Mrs. Brantley as the realtor who was involved. Mm-hmm. Don't have anything against Mrs. Brantley. She doing she work. And if she could make up some money, good, plenty money, go try to make your money. I just don't support what you're doing. Don't. At all. But when she mentioned Mrs. Brantley's name, the Premier got visibly upset.
Very.
Let's go back to that moment.
I have to ask here because the average person don't know. We're hearing it. It could be a rumor and it may not be a rumor. And since we want to play games with words, since the real estate agency, right, that is being said to be dealing with the developer is Mrs. Brantley's agency, then I have to ask.
Mrs. Lawrence, if that is some attempt to drag Mrs. Brantley's real estate agency, as you're saying, to your rumor mongering, then I ask you to desist. Miss Lawrence, hear me out. You asked a question. You have come to the town hall meeting. You have premised a whole debate tonight on some rumor that you say you have been hearing. I don't know how am I supposed to respond to that. I respond to facts. I respond to situations that we are aware of that are on the ground.
Okay. If that were all of it, all of the story, and Miss Colin Lawrence didn't have evidence that Mrs. Brantley was involved, I would apologize on behalf of Miss Lawrence. And I would encourage her to apologize. The Premier, Mark Brantley, is a crook. You got to understand that. Mark Brantley is a bare-faced, bold-faced liar. He sat there and wanted to jump all over Colin Lawrence at the mention of his wife's name, Mrs. Brantley. Mark Brantley knows for a fact that Sharon Brantley and her real estate company is involved in calling people. And Colin knew. But listen to me. If Colin were a liar, I don't get in trouble too often, but anytime I get in trouble, I would hire Colin. Because this is the most classical setup that I've ever seen in my life. Colin, I take a bow. It look like every time I see you around, got to buy you a drink. Because she dropped the name Mrs. Brantley to see what that would invoke. And Mark came with his fake outrage. If this is an attempt to drag Mrs. Brantley, no. And people in the audience who hear this and that, that's enough. That means cut her off. That's enough. But poor this and that did not know what Colin knew. So let's go again.
Many persons are being contacted to sell their lands to the real estate agent that Mrs. Brantley is owner of, to my knowledge, or manages. And he had seemed to take special offense when I had to mention her name, but I could mention her name because I myself own a little bit of land in the area and was contacted by her. Now, in the town hall, I didn't expose that at a time, but I myself was contacted last year around April or so about if I would be interested in selling the land that I own there. And at the time, I said, well, if the price is right. That was my answer to her at the time, because she said to me that there was an investor that wanted to purchase some property. Now, bear in mind that at that time, we had no idea what exactly the investor or the investment was about. So I figured, okay, I have a piece of land and I might be interested in getting the cash. So I said, well, if the price is right, I was all ears, I was listening. And so she set up a meeting, a telephone conference with myself and a voice. It sounded like a Caucasian voice. And we had a telephone conference. And the person indicated to me that they were indeed the developer and they were wanting to purchase the land. And I asked 2 questions in that telephone conference and none of them were answered. And I asked what type of development it's going to be, and he kind of was evasive about it. And I also asked if local people would be able to still use the area. Again, he avoided answering the question. He said something about, well, all the locals that we spoke to have the same concerns, but we are not going to build chicken coops in the area, but never really answering. And then he also said, we would even pay you more than the market value of the property, and they are going to make me an offer, and I should look for the offer in email. And to date, I haven't seen any offers, and then it got down, this is now a year ago. And then you start to hear from more and more people in the area that they're being called and they're being contacted and different types of arrangements are being made. And then you got the news of this enclave that meant that, local people would not be able to access the area. It's going to be a sovereign something, and it's a state within a state, and they're not going to be guided by the laws of the federation. And I was like, what? So that's when I said, well, as much as I might need the money as a single woman, I would not do that,
Go read your Bible. It's a rumor. Go read your Bible. That's the answer. And then, in a matter of days, you have this bill that was passed for the sovereign enclave, which is saying, in effect, if you don't want to sell, we can acquire. So you either jump or we're going to push you. It is only rumor. And you say, boy, Colin, I bow to you again. I salute you. I do everything. Because you set up this just like Muhammad Ali. A little soft touch. Just mention Mrs. Brantley. You hear when Colin says she was involved in those discussions last year, April. But daily, I know you and Tulu, me not think none of you would have kept this. I think that if it was Daly would have said, but your wife called me. I think if it was Carlisle Powell in there, I would have said, your wife joined me in a conversation with a gentleman, the developer.
But he knew, you know.
He knew.
He knew.
Mark Brantley knew.
A lot of the conference calls were done in his office, in his conference room at his law firm.
Okay.
A lot of these conference calls occurred right there in the Jewish building.
Let me take this call. Good evening, caller.
Good evening, gentlemen.
How are you?
I'm feeling good. I really have a concern about what is happening in our country, in our beloved country. A country that the majority of people fear God. And, you know, if this bill is passed, right? If this bill ever come passed, because I think...
Passed already, you know, it just has to be gazetted.
Yeah, but what kind of action can we take? That is where we have to go. What can we do? We have to protect ourselves. We can't allow two people, me and me, to dictate the whole of Nevis. And if this bill is passed, what if my son say, look, I'm not selling Milan, but you are Milan boy. You don't necessarily have to be in that zone. And he decided, look, I'm not selling my land, I'm not selling Milan. But you decide, look, the bill is passed already, so I can demand that you sell me the land. These fellows, we have to get serious and decide what action we're going to take. We need to demonstrate to these people that Nevis is for Nevis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. Listen me. Mark knew. Mark very well knew.
It takes a while to craft this legislation, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he knew all along when he was talking there. He knew exactly what was happening.
What is he hiding?
Hold on, gentlemen. Good evening, caller.
Yeah, good evening to the listening public. A caller just to ask, what action can we take? What do you mean, what action can we take? What do you mean, what action can we take? We pick up tomorrow morning and we go down there when he go out and walk and ask them to go to our place. When he go down there, we go down there behind him and ask him to go out to our place. And if he don't go, make him go. That's what we can do. Good night.
Have a good night, caller.
You wonder sometimes if this guy really believes that we are idiots, we are stupid people, or whatever it is.
They believe it.
But let us look at the present context of the land. If you, on this date, say next week, say the 1st of September, we do get the government moving against people's land, all right? And they're going to give them market price for it then. I mean, 4 years from now, when the roads going and the prices go up, you have lost money. So if people were holding on to the land to get a better price because I hear roads are coming and development is coming, and you come and take it from me at a low market price.
Somebody gonna make a killing.
Okay then.
Good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Recently, 2 callers calling just now. What can we do? Follow up the second caller. You remember Mark Brantley to pick up stone and stone Douglas output with his round? I am not going to condone violence, but such action almost necessary. Okay? And then again, let's go back a little bit. Carlisle and Daly, we are in the same age group. I was born in the 60s. I don't know enough about politics then to talk about Russia, because we used to sing a song, Great Unity of Ireland, meaning St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla. But then it changed. Why it changed? Because the way I was feeling about Russia, so angry, Nevis getting nothing. I believe that's the same way Anguillan was feeling. So now we have 2 islands, St. Kitts and Nevis. And it seems as though Mark wants to split Nevis and send Great Unity again. People of Nevis, we are talking about Bradshaw, a hero, because that man has done something that Mark Brantley, whoever was there before, couldn't do. But here, we have a lady emulating the lady from Barbados, making a stand. And with her kind words,
I could go deeper and go with bad words, but I won't do that because you're not going to leave me there. We are talking about Bretta as a hero. Carlin and Daly long after I gone, people going to be talking about Arya because Nevis is not listening. And Willen, okay, this one in Nevis will say, pick apple and orange and compare them. Compare what's going on right now to what's going on, what went on with Bratia. We love Bratia now. Carlin and Daly, when I gone, they're going to love you now because Nevis people is not listening. But people like you and me, who not only listen to our own self, Mark Brantley can't fool us. I can't get no more right now.
Thank you very much, Carla. Listen, I want to tell you that people are listening. I went down to St. Kitts today very briefly, just duck in and duck back out before people realized that I was there. And the number of people who stopped me to say, I'm going to hear you tonight. It's amazing. People are listening, Carla. And people are paying attention. And I tell you something. Maybe Dr. Joe and the Attorney General don't realize what they're doing. But they're setting the stage for Nevis people to aggressively go out against this bill that was passed in Parliament. I don't know. I know that Mark Brantley and the CCM people railed up Nevis people against Douglas more than once in 2013, not 2013, 2011, and again before that at the opening of the federal office in Government Road. I don't know if Mark can tell them got your stone. I can't recall that. But I know that they provoked Nevis people to anger. Good evening, Carla.
Good evening, Carla, Daly, and Tulu. Carla, I just want to lend my voice to this debate, this issue, because it's making me feel very uncomfortable. Apartheid in South Africa officially began around 1948 with the election of the National Party, and they implemented policies aimed at racial segregation and white supremacy. I'm mentioning this because I have a sense, a kind of feeling that we're about to set up a system in a small island where we will have racial segregation similar to what happened in South Africa. In South Africa, about 80% of the population is black. In Nevis, it might be a little higher. However, in South Africa, whites own the majority of the land in South Africa. Land with natural resources and minerals. I am seeing and sensing something similar can happen in Nevis when we want to give up 1/6 or 6 miles of our land. And I have to ask the question, why do our leaders and some of our leaders in the Caribbean are still hell-bent on giving up so much of our lands to foreigners, rolling out the red carpet to these foreign investors who are exploiting us in a different cloak and extracting what we have and leaving our people poor. Africa is not poor because Africa doesn't have any wealth. Africa is poor because of overexploitation by foreigners, the Europeans, and a host of other people. Are we setting up Nevis to become what Africa, South Africa, was during apartheid? I think Nevisians really need to think long and hard about this and to wake up. I do not understand that these foreign investors who come to our shores cannot obtain so much land in their own country, but they want to go into foreign countries to boast that they own an island. If we are not careful, we will become landless peasants again in our own country. A country where our forefathers fought for us to have land ownership and independence. We got to be very careful, and this smells very bad from the top. And I hope Drew and his cabinet and Mark will reconsider their eagerness to sell off lands in Nevis. Somehow, CCM seems to have a problem when it comes to lands in Nevis and giving away lands in Nevis. They have a track record. And if history taught us anything, we should know clearly that the land deals with Newfoundland never ended well. And CCM never got anything. Neither did the people of Nevis. But the lands were given away. And right now I don't know who owns those properties. We got to be careful with what we're doing. And Nevisians need to stand up against this and speak loudly with one voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carla. Gentlemen, that same area that we have been telling you about over there in Nevis. Let me take the call and then I'll come back to that. Caller, good evening.
Carla, good night.
Great night. How are you?
Not bad. Confusing. Today, good night, and Sulu, good night.
Good night.
Yeah. Carla, help me with this part here. One, they say, so them, okay, the developer, some plenty nice come back on the phone here.
We're hearing you loud and clear. So you try to go ahead.
Right. Okay. Give me the 99 years lease.
Mm-hmm.
Who them a lease on from?
By the time, no, the 99-year lease is on the seabed, so that would be leased from the government.
So the 99 years lease now got nothing to do with the land itself.
No, that's on the seabed.
Oh, okay. And the first caller we calling, he need for call back pertaining to one show on Van Radio. If you listen to me, you need to call back in for one of your member, one lawyer that it may sound confusing to me, but maybe this call can call back and explain.
No, correction. Okay, NRP didn't have anybody on Van Radio during the course of the week. So
a farmer.
Oh, farmer. Okay.
Farmer, yeah. A farmer. Okay. A farmer lawyer. Okay then.
No, not farmer lawyer. Once you're a liar, you're a liar. So he's not a farmer liar. He might be still a current liar. But that has nothing to do with us. You know, my grandmother always said to me, keep your face in your book. So anybody else, I don't worry about other people and other things. I'm focused. But I wanted to show you some. Thank you very much, Carla. I wanted to show you something again. So let me put back up that map of Nevis. And I put it up just to make a little simple point. NRP proposed the project back in 2011-2012. Fuel storage depot. This was $1 billion project. And I always pause when I come to these numbers. $1 billion project. The NRP never contemplated allowing the developers of that $1 billion project to have this sovereign enclave. As a matter of fact, let me say to you that the developers at that time of this fuel storage depot, they were dealing with private individuals. For how much? 101 acres. They were talking to people who owned 101 acres of land. I know the names, but I'm not going to call any names tonight. NRP was not involved. NRP didn't have to go to Parliament to pass any law to take away the 101 acres in total, or a fraction of that for the developers of the fuel storage depot. But CCM went around Nevis and went on social media with the devil imps and all kind of people to tell people fuel storage depot is terrible for Nevis. Suppose there's a fuel spill, whole of Nevis gone up in flames. Center station still down there, and they're still getting an average of maybe 15-20 ships a month to bring in fuel, to take off fuel. And when they bring in fuel, the port makes money from all kind of fees, and they make money for every gallon of fuel that comes off. And some of these tankers hold 1 million gallons, man. For every gallon that comes off, they make money. And when another tanker come to take out fuel, for every gallon that goes back to that tanker, they make money. So it's like a printing press for money. It was going to be a $1 billion fuel storage farm. And they frightened the hell out of Nevis people because it might blow up. But you got fuel storage in Texas, where some of the people who came over there to make noise come from. Huge fuel storage depot. But they came out there to say to Nevis people, listen, do not allow it or make noise. Join CCM to stop what would have been transformative for the island of Nevis. The same way that they made noise against the $30 million fisheries complex. That is what they do best, frighten people. And when you finish with all of that, look in the pocket. They're getting richer and richer, and you, the poor people of Nevis, getting poorer and poorer. So you think about it. 101 acres owned by a family. They were negotiating with those people. I don't know if they were going to buy all or they were going to buy some. But you come fast forward to 2025, and Mark Brantley, he is facilitating the purchase or acquisition of 3,840 acres of land in Nevis. I tell you, the fuel storage was only, they were talking to people who own 101 acres. But these here are looking to buy or acquire 3,840 acres of land in Nevis. Good evening, caller.
Good evening, Carlisle.
How are you?
Good evening to Tulu and Dr. Daly. Carlisle, I could say a lot. I was in that center that night. But what stood out in my mind was that NRP took the time and respectfully brought it out into a town hall setting to explain to the people of Nevis what that project was all about. We haven't seen this being done now. We're hearing about it through all kind of little corners and phone calls and emails. NRP took the time ahead of the project, brought the players in, sat down at a table, and made a presentation to the people of Nevis of what that was all about, what it was going to entail. And Carlisle, we would have gotten a medical center out of it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
And fire services.
Medical center was one of the propositions that would have come out of that. Many Nevisian young men would have had an opportunity to be trained skillfully in, what do you call
Texas. In welding.
I'm sorry?
In welding.
In welding. Absolutely. One or two in particular were being given the opportunity to go to Texas, I think it was, to be trained and then come back and train others. One of the things I recall, Carlisle, is that the numbers that they were calling for, Nevis didn't have that type of numbers to support that project in terms of workers, which means others were going to come here to work. And all of the people in the Long Point, the Bath Village, the Charlestown, and all those areas, whoever had any kind of rental properties to rent would have had the opportunity. The spill-offs from it, which were going to be tremendous. I don't know if you spoke about this, Carlisle, earlier, but one of the things I recall is that the airport that we're struggling with now wasn't going to be sleeping. It was going to be wide awake, because the airport in Nevis was going to be supporting regional aircrafts to come here and refuel their aircrafts with the oil from that oil storage facility in Long Point. Like I say, though, what was most important was NRP respectfully took the time to present it to the people of Nevis so we understood what was involved and what it was all about and what was going to happen with it. The powers that be on the other side came up with the foolishness and chatted a lot of nonsense. And here we are, 13 years later? And nothing has happened in Nevis since that. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Listen, before I forget, let me send out congratulations to all those students who got back their results. If you didn't do as well as expected, listen, just make sure that you register and write over the subjects so that you can have a second chance. Also, I want to say congratulations to our good friend here, Earl Nias. Earl has been operating up there at Ramsbury for the last 23 years. And this has been the best that they have done. They always do a fantastic job every single year. But this year is the most passes that they have had in their 23-year history. Said they had 42, they had 68 passes. And those were EDPM 42 and IT 26. So 68. And Earl, we wish you well. I understand that you already have a lot of people who are registering to take part in the next course that begins in September, and you deserve it because you do a fantastic job with the children and with the adults as well. Good evening, caller.
Good evening again. Carla, I said this before, and I will say it again. You remember I told you when Mark Brantley won in Jessup, and he was doing his parade, I pull over the parade and shake his hand and congratulate him. Because such a charismatic, can't even say the word right now, such an eloquent speaker. I thought the man meant well. So I said to him, Mark, make me a believer and you might have me on your side. Well, I had a conversation with him. I don't remember if it was a text or email. I still have it. When I said, Mark Brantley, do me a favor. All you got to do is, please, keep the oil storage. And he wrote me back and told me, it was never anything. It's all a lie. And I never spoke to him again since because I know he was lying to me. And, oh my God. Please, Nevis people, wake up. Wake up, Nevisian. Wake up. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you very much. Maybe it's your fault you shook his hand. So you made him believe that he was onto something. Let me say before Daly comes in, because we're running out of time. St. Paul's, they still have this fantastic $10,000 raffle. And that will be drawn at Independence Time. 5,000 goes to the winner of the raffle. So I want you to buy your tickets. I still have tickets. So $10,000, St. Paul's raffle. Make sure that you contact myself daily. I don't think Christian Tulu selling any, but daily and I have tickets. Also, I want you to remember that the youth arm, that they have a raffle as well. They have 42 prizes. That is going to be drawn independence. 42 prizes, so you have 42 chances to win. And remember, we're turning 42 years old this year in terms of St. Kitts and Nevis. So those raffles are out there. Make sure that you participate and you buy your tickets. I have tickets for all of those raffles. And those of you in New York who want to take a chance, I bring in some with me. So make sure that if you contact me early, just in case you want to buy a lot or you want to contribute quite big, I'll have some with me. So, gentlemen, I don't think I want to get into anything new. I'm going to leave some stuff for next week so that we have some stuff for next week to look at. But, Daly and Tulu, this land is you're not going any place.
Let me say this. I want to just put this thing into a little bit of a context relative to the monies involved. Because just on the valuation of the land, you're looking anywhere from 400 million to 750 million for that land. Let me repeat that. The lowball figure for that acreage of land, the 6 square miles, is anywhere from 400 million to 750 million. It's a lot of money. It's a lot at stake. And if we are going to apply the regular fees for the realtors, which is 10%, somebody could make between $40 and $75 million. Now you understand why this thing is unfolding as it is. There's mega money involved.
And legal fees is not involved yet?
Legal fees not yet. Our people need to understand this is a one-stop shop.
Okay.
So if you as the realtor is going to take home 40 million for your share, then your children who are processing the alien landholder licenses and the other documentation, they're taking home their share. What is the premier getting?
The wife, the husband.
So you are looking at a prospect of between anywhere from $50 to $60 million in one fell swoop. This is the context at which we are looking at. This level of corruption and greed is unprecedented. This is out there. And so you can't fault the premier so much for lying and say he ain't know nothing about this. Is all rumor.
Can't fault him for lying?
No, I can't fault him because he don't smell the butter.
I think you're on the low side with the valuation.
Well,
I think the 700 million might be the low end.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars involved. Hundreds of millions of dollars. And people are salivating at the prospect of putting their hands on that money, getting a piece of it.
One family.
And the silence of the other members of the cabinet speaks to the possibility that they are also beneficiaries of this. Because when these guys come through, these investors, they're trying to contaminate as many people as possible. They're trying to corrupt as many people as possible. And so they may very well have a debit card somewhere that they can go and draw off their money when they feel like it. Because these kinds of investors, they're under the radar. They don't want to be known. Carleen mentioned that she was trying to find out who they are. They don't want to talk. And other friends of mine who have been approached, it's like pulling teeth to figure out who these guys are and what they're doing. They don't want to be known.
It's a dark world. It's a dark operation. It is a dark operation.
Right? And so you have a situation, and we can't forget our good friend Mr. Bryan. Mr. Bryan has on record 5 acres in the same area that is under threat. 120 million US, 120 million EC Atlantic View Hotel development. What is he getting out of this? Is he going to sell just the land, or is he going to try to transfer the $120 million value to these developers? So everybody's compromised. You know, it is a sad reflection of who we are, that in a government that is supposed to be looking at the best interest of the people of Nevis, everybody is just full in their pockets. You know, and I guess it's a sign of the times that we have now moved beyond the regular levels of corruption to the stratospheric level of corruption. But I just want to give people a context of how much money is involved. A lot of money is involved in this whole endeavor. And it speaks to why the Premier is going to the lengths he's going to secure it.
Drew and Douglas, Conwis and the others, they tried to kill Timothy Harris, claiming that he had his brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews in departments of government that was making money. But Drew, Douglas and Conwis and the others sat in Parliament and passed a bill that clearly is going to benefit Brantley, his wife, and the Brantley family. And they had no qualms in doing this, knowing fully well that that family are going to benefit greatly from this project. Something is fundamentally wrong with us in this place. But Mark Brantley was able
You ever heard the term, the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
I think I heard you quote it several times.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The SKNLP Labour government, as we speak, CNRP as the enemy. We are regarded as the enemy.
What have we done to them but good?
The enemy of my enemy. All right? And so they regard us as enemies, and so they will do anything to assist Brantley in his escapade to do what he's doing.
So this is the enemy to destroy the enemy.
Yeah. We are perhaps a greater enemy to them than Brantley is. No, you know, but it is what it is. Let's go to the
Good evening, caller.
Good evening. Carlisle, having stated all that Mr. Bradshaw stands for as the Premier of St. Kitts Nevis, where has this new Labour come from? Because you can't call him nothing less than New Labour. These not Bradshaw Labour. They got people in St. Kitts still voting Labour because of Bradshaw. But it has changed. Because this gentleman wanted, when it comes to land, he makes sure the people get land, have land, own land. And I don't think he was too fond of a certain race. And for us to see it happening, that the land going to be taken away, to be given to these people, this is a sad day. And I'm hoping that somebody would have a conversation with the Labour administration and remember their national heroes stand for something, and this too should stand for something. Good night and goodbye.
Thank you very much. That's our last call for the evening because it's already 9:54. And gentlemen, tonight I want you to keep your eyes on the clock when you're doing your closing, so we get out of here at 10 o'clock tonight. Okay? That's it for our show for this evening. We have tried to keep the lands in focus. I didn't even tell you about the crony lands. Because you see, boys, CCM, when it comes to lands is something that always embarrasses CCM. But I'll address that in my closing. Let me go to Tulu first.
In 2011, Mark Brantley and CCM was able to rile up the people of Nevis to fight on behalf of Mark Brantley, and they came out in their numbers, and they did fought, demonstrated, and we know what they did in Charlestown. I'm saying to the people of Nevis, especially those who own lands in the area where Mark Brantley and Drew and the others went into Parliament to pass law that will potentially take away their land. I want them to stand up and fight on their own behalf, on the behalf of their children, understanding that these people has colluded in taking away your children's heritage for the benefit of themselves and their client from wherever their clients are from. Because their clients are so dark, and they themselves are so dark, that the clients cannot come forward and say, I am Tom, and this is what I want to do. And when the premier would have sat in this country and lie month in and month out in regards to this proposed development that they have, people, something is wrong. Please get up and fight for your right, fight for your children, fight for your children's future, or else not only are they going to take this 1/6, but they're going to come back, and wherever they see lands that they want, they are going to find ways and means to take it away from you and your children for their own personal benefit. Think twice and act now before it's too late. Good night.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daly.
42 years after independence, we're having a conversation about the Nevis's autonomy over its lands. 42 years after independence, we are still struggling with electoral reform. 42 years after independence, we are still struggling with constitutional reform. We are not going anywhere. We are not advancing as a federation. And more conversations that I'm engaged with persons who are aware of what's happening, aware of the umbilical relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis, are unhappy that we have not advanced as a federation. And are now clearly digesting the idea of a complete break. They go their way, we go our way. Because there is a rampant unwillingness by the federal government to address the concerns of Nevisians. It's as if they want to keep us in a subservient position. We are not advancing as a federation. We have had every opportunity for 42 years to make the necessary adjustments, and we have not done so. And it's not by accident. It is not coincidental. After 1998, the referendum failed about secession. All sorts of talk came down about constitutional reform. I challenge anybody. Show me one aspect of that creature that Nevisians were concerned about, where our destiny is determined not by us, but by others. Show me one instance where the federal government has said, listen, we need a true federal system if we are to have equity, not equality, equity in this federation. Nothing. Nothing. The federal government poses as the local government on St. Kitts, channeling the resources into their own constituencies, while we on Nevis have to suck it up. We have 2 elections on Nevis, they have 1. Twice to be tribalistic, twice to be weary of money controlling our elections. Nobody is willing to change. So we endure
2 elections while they have one. Control of our defense, national security, foreign affairs, but we have no representative quantum in that argument. They choose who the ambassadors are, they choose who the commissioners are, they choose everything. 42 years later, we are no closer to equity in this federal arrangement. So where are we going? Another 42 years? Look at this legislation that was just passed. Clearly coerced, clearly designed to make sure our leadership in Nevis here, in the CCM, continue to dominate us. We are not going anywhere in this arrangement, my friends. And we need to have serious conversation about where we are going for the next 42 years. Anguilla left, they are prospering, we are still here and we are suffering. This conversation must be had. This conversation is necessary. And if Dr. Drew wants to continue down this road, or any successive leader as Prime Minister wants to continue down this road of having this federation remain a federation, then we must have serious, monumental, seismic change to how we govern ourselves. Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daly. And it's a minute after 10 o'clock, so I'm not going to take long in winding up. Just to remind you that next week, Saturday, in the Bronx in New York City, the NRP leader will be leading a delegation for a meet and greet. I want for you to be there in your numbers to receive the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party and her delegation, and for you to show some warmth and some love. And there will be a section for questions. President will make some brief presentations. We will make some brief presentations. And you'll have the chance to ask questions. But the thing is, you got to be there. Got to come on out and make sure that you're present. Now, I started looking through my library. And I found this evening a paper that was developed by CCM when they decided to take Nevis into secession. Proposals for the future constitution of Nevis. You know how CCM do things as soon as they finish, you're outdated already, so that will have to be redone and done properly. But when you look at this land grab, which has been masterminded by the federal parliament, when you look at the geothermal grab with the resolution that was masterminded by the federal parliament, when you look and you see that the amount of monies which the St. Kitts government, which is the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, get to spend in St. Kitts, which are not listed as loans, and the fact that in Nevis they are listed as loans, I never hear that SIDF or CBI lend money to the federal government, but they lend money to Nevis. When you look at all of these things, all of a sudden, I start recalling the 2nd of June, 1974, when Dr. Simeon Daniel led a secession vote here in Nevis. The tally from the vote, 4,183 for seceding from St. Kitts and 14 against. 99.67% of the votes said, let us leave. I want to tell you that if matters keep going the way that they are going, in that you see this geothermal grab, you see this bill to allow the federal government to have this sovereign enclave here in Nevis, they could sign off. Because you know that Papi Shaw going sign and say yes. And then he going to come and say it's the federal government. Do it. Gentlemen, if it continues like this, and you keep pushing the people of Nevis back against the walls, you're going to have another secession vote. The 4,183 Robert Llewellyn Bratcher said was null and void because there was no clause in the Constitution to federation. Well, it wasn't federation. St. Kitts and Nevis. There was no clause in the Constitution to cover that. But guess what? That is exactly why a fellow named Ural Swanston spoke in the federal parliament for 2 or 3 days. That is exactly why Ivor Stevens spoke in the federal parliament for 4 days. And parliament ended before the matter was put to a vote. 4 long, solid days. And Ivor Stevens said he felt he could attack for 4 more. There is not going to be no lot of talking this time around. Nobody going to talk for 4 days. The laws have been changed. But if you keep pushing the people of Nevis with their backs against the walls, Nevis people will say, listen, we're better off by ourselves. I'm simply saying that if it comes to that, I would be one of the first persons to be telling people, hey, let us see if we can activate that 113 and look after ourselves. Because there is no way in hell that any government in Nevis should be giving up all of the legislative powers that we work so hard for and got included in Schedule 5. You remember there was a time when the federal government, the St. Kitts government, St. Kitts Nevis government said they don't want nobody from Nevis in the talks in England for independence because they're not talking what we want to hear. Nevis people had to raise money to get Sim Daniel to go to England. And after the change of government in 1980, others were able to join him on the government's post, so that they could talk for Nevis and get 113 in the Constitution and get Schedule 5 in the Constitution, so that when people are giving up one of the items in Schedule 5, meaning geothermal, 16, the manufacture and supply of electricity, when they're giving up 15, control of the lands in Nevis. It took us 101 years to get back a government. 101 years, from 1882 to 1983. And we just giving them up. 101 years, you fought so hard. You had people who had to go all over Nevis and fight and rally. NRP came out of struggles. And the last straw that broke the camel's back was the sinking of Christina. And there is no way that the people of Nevis are going to willingly give up what they fought so hard for. It is not going to happen. You could pass all the laws you want to pass about the sovereign enclave. You could do whatever you want. But you cannot sit back in Nevis and allow these people to be comfortable while making you prisoners in your own country.
This is something. Nevis, this is something. And no information forthcoming. Do they really care? Or are we going to hear denials and continue to hear it's a rumor? Or continue to hear what NRP did back in 2006 to 2013 and what they did not do? Or are we going to hear who is unemployed? Are we going to hear that these are noisemakers? Are we going to hear who's broke and who owes the bank? Are we going to hear they can't even build a lemonade stand, but here they are critiquing or demanding accountability and answers? Because we know the modus operandi of the CCM. And this is what they come with all the time. Try to instill fear and intimidation and make mockery of those who are asking for answers. This period that we're going through, it's very sad. It's very sad. And it's very sad that it's coming from people before they got to office. People who demanded accountability. People who want a campaign on transparency and integrity and accountability. And here they are today with these things out of the window. This is very sad and heartbreaking. And that's our program for today. Do join me again on Monday morning, God's willing, for THG News Today with Mervyn Hanley. I want you to have yourselves a blessed and peaceful weekend. And take care of yourselves. Because certainly no government official, no minister, no premier, no prime minister, they're not going to take care of you. And you got to take care of yourselves. Yeah? Have a good one, folks. Carl & Sons have been serving the people of St. Martin for over 40 years. And the food and service get better and better. From early morning, customers flock to the bakery for their favorite sandwiches, cakes, pastries, you name it. First thing at mornings and last thing at afternoons, folks rush to Carl & Sons for simply the best. There are 2 locations, Coal Bay and on the Pondville. In Coal Bay, the opening hours are Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Saturdays, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Sundays, 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Opening hours on the Pondville, Monday to Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also cater for weddings, parties, special events, whatever the occasion. It's Carl & Sons. Our staff, we are always happy to serve you. Call us today, the Colby location, 721-544-2462. That's 721-544-2462. Or in Phillipsburg, 721-543-1059. That's 721-543-1059. It's Carl & Sons Bakery. We are here to serve you. Nevis, satisfy your sweet tooth at Feaser's, the cozy spot in Charlestown, known for its mouth-watering ice cream and dal parade. We are open Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come in and sample our patties, sandwiches, air-fried wings with fries, hot dogs, rotis, and now our famous smoothies, in all flavors of course. And don't forget to try the famous bus-up shut and saltfish. It's Feaser's, located at the entrance to the Cotton Ginnery Mall in Charlestown, Nevis. They're also available by phone, so place your order by calling 1-869-665-2458. Don't ask about the rest, just try the best.